And so she put a shot of 1942 in my hand. And it was in that moment that I realized the true problem that I had been hiding. In that moment, I remember grabbing it and I was smelling it, and I started to tear up. My eyes started to well. And my girlfriend at the time had been sober with me for a year as well. And she had decided, she only did it for me, she decided she was going to maintain sobriety. And in that moment, I was contemplating, and when, I don't know if you've ever had like near life death experiences where your whole life passes before your eyes. That happened as I was holding this cup of 1942.
The Sober Curator Show is a space for open and honest conversations about sobriety, recovery, and living alcohol-free. While we celebrate diverse paths to a sober lifestyle, some topics discussed may be sensitive or triggering for certain listeners. Our content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not replace professional advice. If you're in recovery or exploring sobriety, please take care while listening and seek support from trusted professionals as needed.
There's a lot to be talked about today. I am also joined today by Kim Parsley, my trusty sober sidekick. If you're not familiar with Kim's work, she's been contributing to our Happy Every Hour in a beverage review section for basically a year. And she has a really cool company called The Happy Traveler, and she curates vintage travel bars made for both alcohol-free and alcohol-forward communities. But today, our guest is Cesar Vallin. He is a successful entrepreneur, a restaurant operator, and breathwork instructor who's been rocking a sober lifestyle since January 1, 2017. I love all you people that get sober on January 1st. My hat is off to you. Good job. He is also the force behind Cloak and Petal, which is a go-to spot in San Diego. He's got some fascinating insights on resilience, self-awareness, and what it really means to question your relationship with alcohol. Plus, you guys, he cold plunges every single day, which is definitely not something I'm ever going to commit to, but I am intrigued to learn more. So let's get into it. Cesar, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to be here. And are you in the San Diego area now?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego, central San Diego.
Mm-hmm. And have you always lived in that area?
Pretty much. I was born and raised in Pacific Beach, Claremont area. Mm-hmm. And then, I got engaged, and I was building a house in Claremont. And my wife, when we got engaged, says, "You're living with me." And I didn't really have much of a choice at that point. So moved over here and been living here for the last 4 years.
And that is just proof that girls do rule the world. Thank you for confirming that today, Cesar. Yes. Well, let's get started and talk about a pivotal moment in your sobriety. Not necessarily the early days, but a time where you really felt the shift. You mentioned your first New Year's Eve after getting sober, where you weren't sure if you drink. Walk us through that moment and what it was like, what was going through your mind, and what made you stay the course.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I didn't have a plan after year one. My goal was just to getting to the end of the year. So as New Year's started coming around, we're opening up a new restaurant. I had just filed bankruptcy the year before. And so, the old ways is to celebrate while drinking, right? And December 31st was right around the corner. I actually stopped drinking on the 31st at like 10 p.m. I didn't even make it till midnight. I had a moment in my last bar and I was like, I'm done. I put my drink down and I walked out. But I didn't have a plan. So one of my good friends who was a general manager for me at the time, she said, "There's only one way to find out." And so she put a shot of 1942 in my hand. And it was in that moment that I realized the true problem that I had been hiding. In that moment, I remember grabbing it and I was smelling it, and I started to tear up. My eyes started to well. And my girlfriend at the time had been sober with me for a year as well. And she had decided, she only did it for me, she decided she was going to maintain sobriety. And in that moment, I was contemplating, and when I don't know if you've ever had like near life death experiences where your whole
I
life
have.
passes before your eyes.
Uh-huh.
That happened as I was holding this cup of 1942. I call it a cup because it wasn't a shot. And in that moment, it was flashbacks of all the times of me drinking by myself. I didn't have a problem where I was destructive, fighting anyone. Nobody really knew it. It was when I would come home, grab a bottle of Lagavulin that's not meant to be polished off, and I would polish it off. And an hour later, then there's another bottle, or there's lines of cocaine, and there's bullets on the ground, and I'm walking around with a loaded gun. Nobody knew that. And I was pretending not to know that that wasn't really happening in my life. Yeah. And all that started coming back. And I remember, like, as I was about to drink it, or I wasn't going to drink, I wasn't sure. A manager came by and I was tearing up, and he says, "It's not about now, it's about tomorrow. How are you going to feel about this tomorrow?" And when he said that, I had this like big release where I was able to look at myself. It was such like an outer body experience. And I was able to look at myself for what I really was. And I was an alcoholic. I wasn't just an alcoholic. I was a junkie. If I wasn't doing alcohol, if I was drinking alcohol, I was taking pills. I was addicted to pills for 5 years. I was always doing something sedating myself, but it was only a little bit to prove to myself that I didn't have a problem and I wasn't addicted, right? But I was just a junkie. And although I wasn't like doing meth and, and all those, other heavy drugs, it was a serious problem. And I couldn't deny the truth anymore of what it was doing to me and what it was doing to my life. And in the short amount of time of that 1 year, I walked out of my business of 10 years. I didn't even know I was starting to create Cloak and Petal. I didn't have any money. I didn't have money to file bankruptcy. I didn't get the money to file bankruptcy until April of 2017. Between April of 2017 and December of 2017, I became a 30% owner with no money, no car, no cell phone, no nothing, of one of the hottest anticipated restaurants. And I did that while being sober. Right? Like I had nothing. And so what that told me was, what would it look like if I continued this journey of not just sobriety, but of clarity, right? Of presence. And, I've had several moments. I've had several other occasions where I almost drank for the wrong reasons. But that was a pivotal moment for me because it was like I took agency and ownership of my life that day. I was like, you are an alcoholic. You are constantly sedating yourself. You're constantly hiding from the truth. And I was all the years prior where I had been battling depression and putting loaded guns on my mouth and contemplating suicide. I always blamed alcohol, and it wasn't until August of 2018 when I went home from climbing out of my bankruptcy, starting to make money. My relationship of 11 years was good. I'm in the best shape of my life. And somehow I go home and I put a gun in my mouth, sober. And that's when I really got scared because I realized I can no longer blame alcohol.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was a pivotal moment for me.
Yeah. I so identify with everything that you just said. And I especially loved when you talked about it's not about right now, it's about tomorrow. Are you gonna be happy with the choices you're making right now, tomorrow? And my story is very similar to yours, including with the depression. And yeah, when we stop drinking, we think that it's gonna just magically everything's going to get better. And it can, but usually, eventually we realize, oh no, we're the problem. We can't blame it on the alcohol or the cocaine. It's like, oh, we're the problem. Yeah. And I also heard you say, like, I wasn't on meth. I wasn't this. I did the same thing. Like, I was like, well, I'm not that bad. And I mean, I still have a house and I still have a driver's license. Yeah. And, I still have my kid, so it's like, we make all these excuses. Well, it could be worse. So it's not that bad. And it's like, but it's not that good. And I'm not accomplishing anything that I want to accomplish. And then lo and behold, when you remove it, from the situation, you realize you can start accomplishing things, including the self-awareness and the clarity that you had to dig in and do some additional work on yourself. So I totally understand that very well.
Yeah.
What's it like to be sober in a very heavily drinking industry?
Now it's easy. I mean, I miss, I don't know about you or Kim, but I miss a glass of scotch, just the taste of it. Like, just, it makes my mouth water. Like, even now, it makes me just water in the back, or like a nice glass of wine.
It's
But
the
for
old fashioned for me. With
the
the old
yeah.
fashioned.
But at first it was, I can't even really say it was ever super difficult, really. It was never, as much as I loved the taste, I knew that the taste wasn't something that was strong enough to get me back into the bottle. I think it was just more the false narrative that we create that we need alcohol to socialize,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's hard, right? Like, it's hard to go out sober at the beginning. Like, what do I do? What do I like? And you realize that the anxiousness and the social anxiety, it's really just from suppressed trauma, you know, at least from my experience. That's how I experienced it. And there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't addressing, and it took time, and it took me being vulnerable with my friends. In the last like 6 years, I probably spent like $40,000 on emotional intelligence workshops, live in-person workshops that like over and over and over again. So, and Wim Hof and all these other modalities. So yeah, I would say it's a combination of a lot of things that have just kind of helped me get to this point. But what I was going to say earlier is that I know I had said it's not about now, it's about tomorrow. In that moment, it was true. But if there's one thing that I would say is the key that I found to sobriety and to making better decisions is presence in that present moment. And like, the more aware that you are and the more conscious you are of like, how is that going to make me feel tomorrow? If you're present with that and you're not inebriated and you're not under the influence, you can make the right decision. You can make a better decision, right? Mm-hmm. And it's almost twofold, right? Like, it's about now, but it's also, when you're drinking, it's also, well, yeah, like, how are you going to feel tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, so I can't imagine, circling back, I can't imagine not being where I'm at now and everything that I've created just from sobriety. And that's just, sobriety is just one part, right? I've done all these other things that have improved my life. So yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at.
Nice. Yeah. And congratulations on making it through and creating success with Cloak and Petal, right? I mean, that's awesome. You've built a really solid career in the hospitality world and restauranting. And you also do some business consulting, as I understand. I'm just wondering how your sobriety influenced the way you run your business. You know, does it have an influence on the mission, the platform of Cloak and Petal, or any of the other adventures that you're into?
At the beginning, it was tough because I was still taking a lot of the practices. I hadn't developed good, strong business acumen from my previous bar or nightclub. I was still kind of running, like you said, like Alysse said, I was stopped drinking, but my life in business didn't really change, right? Like, I was still the angry, narcissistic, power tripping boss. And I wasn't like that all the time, right? But I was like, when I didn't get what I wanted, or I didn't know how to control my emotions, I would lash out, you know? And so it took time to develop that business acumen and relationship with myself and others. And again, with the investment and personal development courses and consultants, like, we hired one of the best consultants in Southern California. I think he's the best. And he was so hard on me, like, the first 2 years. I don't know how he dealt with me. I wanted to kill him. And he was hard on me because he believed in me. And so I wouldn't have been able to develop and foster these tools if I wasn't sober. There's absolutely no way that I would have been able to become more empathetic, to be able to be honest with myself. When not only was an alcoholic, but when you don't get what you want, you act like a little baby, you know, and those are tough conversations to have. And so through the development of that and asking for feedback, you know, any leader could give feedback, but are you willing to ask for feedback? Are you willing to shut up and say thank you and that's it and not defend it? And all those practices just really harnessed and molded me to become an entrepreneur. I went from a business owner with bad business acumen to somebody who's developing skills that people are hiring me now and asking me. I fell into consulting. It wasn't something that I was planning to do.
Okay.
And I was in restaurants, people were in dentistry, and friends were opening up plumbing businesses. And somehow, we went from showing them how they made $6,000 a month to like $90,000 a month, just by simple practices. And it wasn't so much, yes, there was some business, but a lot of it was habits. A lot of it is routine. A lot of it is having honest conversations with yourself. Yes, there are systems, processes, and stuff like that we had to put in place, but they really just did the work. I just kind of helped guide them. And I think that what alcohol, my relationship with alcohol and drugs has given me is that in this world of business, there are travel agents and there's tour guides. And I've developed through my experiences, I'm a tour guide. I could take you to a place where most travel agents have never traveled, and so I take great honor in that. And I really enjoy being able to connect with business owners and entrepreneurs who are willing to take the next step, and I don't have all the answers. I really just ask them questions. And somehow it seems to work. So we'll see how it continues and see if I continue down that path. Right now, I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm trying to figure out where the rest of my life is going to go because I love what I do, but I also love the cold exposure. I love the breath work. I do them both every day.
Yeah.
I don't skip days. So we'll see how the rest pans out.
Yeah. And is the Wim Hof breath work something that you're bringing into your consulting practice as well? Are you advising these, future entrepreneurs on that as a ritual for yourself that's been successful?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely, it depends. It depends if I continue to go down that path. I think I'm creating this platform called Ready for All. And it's basically it's almost like it's Ready for All is everything that's prepared me for my life and made me successful. So under Ready for All, it's like I've created, Cloak and Petal, consulting, breath work, endurance sports. And so I've been able to gain financial security. And so it's really just more of like a lifestyle. So yes, I would say that it's not a platform where I'm trying to make money. It's really just to share information with people. I'm sure it'll lead to, people wanting to work with me directly. And when that time comes, possibly. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the breath work. It was just calling me and had been calling me for 4 or 5 years during some plant medicine ceremonies and breathwork ceremonies. And it kept calling me and it getting louder. And so my intention was to get certified, and I didn't have a plan after that because I felt like if I had all these attachments that I have to do this and I have to do that with it, then it would become a have to versus
that makes sense. That makes sense. Can you describe it in a little more detail? What is it and what role does it play for you?
Oh man.
Does it just sound like Darth Vader? Do you sound like Darth Vader when you do it?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. The kids, they're like, we heard you this morning. You were like, pure. And they love it. Our kids do it. I guide them through it. My kids, I just cold plunged right now. They're 11 and 13. And, I was making a smoothie when I got home from a run, and they were getting into the cold exposure.
Nice.
How long do you plunge? Is it 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
I do 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah. It depends. Like if I have like a really long, like if I do like a 10, 15 mile run, then I'll do a post plunge, like a few hours later or later on in the day, maybe about 10 minutes. Yeah.
And how cold do you keep it? I have a lot of questions.
Mine stays between 39 and 41.
That is cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is cold. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you keep it that cold?
There's a chiller. There's a chiller that maintains it. It has like an ozone filter, so it cleans all the bacteria and stuff like that. But I know, Kim, you were asking the breath work, right? I went into how I fell into it real quick was I was training for an Ironman. Well, I was going to swim in 50-degree water. I didn't even know how to swim. And so I had like to learn how to swim. Then I had to learn how to swim in cold water. I got introduced to a guy named Tyler Forbes. He has an amazing studio called Breathe Degrees. And I went there to get adapted to the cold, and he taught me how to breathe, and breathing taught me how to meditate. I'd never been able to meditate. I have monkey brain like you wouldn't believe. Like it's just all over. Like there's literally a monkey punching in my head all day. And when I went there, it blew my mind, because when we're talking about sobriety, alcohol tunes us out, right? It sedates us. Like we're always looking for a way to make excuses and to look for external ways to fix us. And with breath work, it teaches you to tap into yourself, right? And it teaches you to become present. And it's like that short period of time where I was able to like just fall into this deep meditative state, and everything just went quiet, and I would get emotional, I would cry, and it was such an incredible experience that I didn't even know how to process what happened. And I had only been doing it maybe once or twice a week and sometimes like once a week for like four years. But when I kept doing the plant medicine, it kept telling me it's time for you to go out and share this with the world. Like as far as like your healing. And I didn't understand what she meant until finally I signed up. And then halfway, I would say in December of this past year was when it all circled back. And I realized that the medicine was telling me that this is how I was going to go out and help people heal through the breath. And so, I mean, there's much more to what it does to you, the deep rhythmic breathing. I wake up, I take my retainer off, and right in bed, I move my pillow. My wife's usually at the gym. And so while she's at the gym, I'll stay home and watch the kids. And right away, I just take my retainer off and I start 3 rounds of 30 to 40 breaths. And so I do 30 to 40 breaths. And after the last breath, there's a retention phase where I take a deep breath, let it out, and I hold my breath for anywhere from about 1 to 3 minutes. And then once I take a deep breath, to reset my breath, I take a deep breath, I hold for 15 seconds and I let it go. And that's 1 round. And so I do that 3 times before I even get out of bed. I used to feel like I had to like go to this special place, or I had to go down. Like right now I'm in my meditation room. And so I have like a yoga mat and pillows. And so I even just, it's hard to do some of these things, if you're not used to doing it, and so even I'm used to doing it and it's hard. So like, don't complicate it. Just do it right in bed. And if you can't do it in bed, just go downstairs, go somewhere where you can. And if you can't do 30 breaths, do 20 breaths. And if you can't do 20 breaths, do 10 breaths. But the main thing is getting connected to yourself, being grounded, so that, when you're going through life and you're going through difficult times, a lot of the times we don't breathe. We just hold our breaths. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. I can't believe this happened. I can't. I was at my rental yesterday in my truck. I was loading a TV at my Airbnb, and the truck it's a 6,000 pound truck. It sank into the dirt and it busted a pipe, and it's like water squirting out. And my kids are like, oh my God. They're like, well, like, what are you doing? And like, oh my God. And I run out and I'm like, look, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I get into the car and I'm trying to move it. And they're like, how are you not freaking out? And I realized that 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I may have been like, oh my God, like this is terrible. But it's taught me how to respond in ways and really like harness the ability to not overreact. Because if it's bad, like what is overreacting going to do? Right. And a lot of that has just come from the breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that. And I appreciate what you originally said about it, as well as you didn't want to put any pressure on what it was going to do for you or what you were going to do with it. So you were open to trying it, and you had an experience, and it may evolve over time too, as to what you get out of it. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And my focus since getting certified, they want you to do it every day. And the first like 8 weeks I didn't. And then starting in November, I started doing it every day. And it blew my mind what it did for me mentally, clarity. Like my wife and I have had a really, really tough last 8 months, like 2 IVFs, a miscarriage at week 8, like a lot of loss. There was just internal stuff with the family. And I don't know how I would have gotten through this if I hadn't had this practice, like completely, like every single day. And it doesn't fix it, but it allows you to get through it with grace, and sometimes when you're broken down and you're crying, you feel like you can't keep going, like these modalities are the things that have really given me the courage and the harness, the ability to keep going.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And sorry for what you've been going through.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Habit stacking is, I think, a benefit to anyone, but especially for people that have chosen a life in sobriety. It does suit us well to start stacking habits. I have also found that to be true. Speaking of stacking, I want to switch gears and go back to the restaurant, go back to Cloak and Petal. How do you stack the menu of drinks? I know you have both alcohol and alcohol free. And what are you seeing in the restaurant industry as it pertains to this kind of like surge in people wanting the alcohol free cocktails, mocktails, NA beers, just things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's grown. Before we used to have a non-alcoholic beer, and now we have like a menu for cocktails, and I think we have a couple beers. I think we even put like a cold brew on draft just for people that want caffeine, like a strong coffee drink. I am not really a part of the design of the menu anymore. I've kind of like stepped away from a lot of that stuff. I help oversee, and I look through final edits. Obviously, our biggest money makers are cocktails, so that typically goes more in the center or like in the forefront of the menu. But I want to say we've grown that non-alcoholic now, where I want to say it's like 3 to 4 cocktails, and so they're actually pretty legible. It's like it has its own space, and it is growing. I would say that it's not growing in the sense where it's going to, overtake alcohol anytime soon.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
But I have seen alcohol sales drop significantly. And I don't know, there's a couple theories. Is it, price, or is it, back, I don't know how old you were. I'm 44. When it was normal to go out and drink till 2, 3 in the morning and like get home at 4 or 5. Like that was like fun, right? Like if you do that now, you're kind of looked at as like a loser, right? Like these young kids aren't doing that. Like they're cold plunging, they're running, they're doing yoga in the morning. So I just don't know if, alcohol's sales have risen, but they've risen because Jameson that used to be $8 is now $16 to $17.
Right.
So I don't know. I definitely know the alcohol companies are worried because a lot more people are becoming sober. I'm okay with that. Even as a business owner, we have to find ways to make money and keep people involved. But we are definitely continuing to expand that non-alcoholic menu. Our goal is to have 6 cocktails. But, some of them taste pretty good. Some of the alcohol-free spirits, they do not taste great without anything.
True.
You have to mix them with something.
You do. Yes.
Because if you think you're going to get a non-alcoholic tequila on the rocks and you're going to drink it and think you're drinking something, it's literally just like drinking iced tea. Like you might as well just get iced tea and put it in your cup because you're spending like $40 on a bottle. That doesn't, but it's weird. As soon as it mixes with the mixers, it tastes like a margarita.
Yeah.
But I'm a light like you. I'm a very simple soda water person. So I don't spend money on non-alcoholics unless I'm somewhere where I kind of just want to see what they've developed and see if there's any like more of like a research and development. But typically I'm a soda water.
Yeah. Well, I know we're definitely seeing that Gen Z, there's actually quite a bit of data out that Gen Z is drinking significantly less than its predecessors. Significantly. I think it's something like millennials and Gen X consume, it's like 24 billion a year in alcohol. Boomers are like 32 billion and Gen Z is like 3 billion. So that's like a significant difference. And we can put the source for that stat that I may or may not have gotten correctly in the show notes, because I'm not making it up. I just might be a little bit off. But let's be honest, I'm always a little bit off. But we're seeing that shift, right? And what it reminds me of, and this is a bold statement, I've said it before, but I stand by it, is, and I can say this as a former smoker. Not only was I a former drinker and a former drug user, but a former smoker, Marlboro menthol lights from the age of 16 to probably 33 or 34, right? But so I saw how smoking went from being the cool, awesome thing that everybody did. And like, I even remember smoking in the workplace back when I first got my first job at United Airlines, making reservations over the phone, and we smoked inside. Like, I remember that. And then now it's like, people aren't smoking. They have to smoke outside 25 feet away from the building, right? And so there are still a lot of smokers today. And trust me, when I walk past them, I'm like, oh, smells great. Just like you were talking about with the scotch, like smells great, but it doesn't, it's just, I had to let it go. It wasn't good for my lungs. I didn't like the smell. I also didn't want, anything causing any extra wrinkles. So what I think we're going to see is a decade from now, I think that we're going to see alcohol has shifted into a similar vein as tobacco products have, that they're still very much around. People are still very much consuming them, but I do think it's going to be significantly less, because I do think people are becoming more and more health focused, especially as, all this data and research comes out about what some of these toxins are doing to our bodies, whether it's, linked to cancer or dementia or whatnot. So I think we're going to see a shift, and I am still surprised and delighted when I go to a restaurant and see that they have offerings on the menu that I could drink if I wanted to. I'll probably still get the Diet Coke or the soda water, right? I probably will. But I love that there's an option, because if I'm at a celebration, a birthday, an anniversary, something where everybody has a fancy glass, I want to feel like I fit in. I want to be part of the fun. And so I love that we're seeing more and more of that happening on menus of restaurants everywhere. And I'm glad to see that you guys are working on it too.
Thank you.
Well, as we start to wind down here, one thing you may or may not know about the Sober Curator or about me, is that I am obsessed with pop culture. And we're really trying to show on the Sober Curator that a sober life in recovery, alcohol-free, whatever labels work best for you, that it's fun and it's rewarding. And yes, it's hard. And yes, it still has challenges. Your truck is still going to break the water pipe and you're going to have a situation, right? That's going to happen. But it's also a lot of fun. So what do you do for fun besides running marathons and cold plunging? You got to have some guilty pleasures. You got to have something, Cesar.
Yeah, I'm a total closet sugar person. So, yeah,
what's your go-to candy of choice?
Reese's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all the way.
Yeah.
I am
Reese's
there for Reese's
Pieces. Red Vines. We went to, we just had Valentine's Day, and my wife and I stayed home, and we just did something small at the house. And then the kids were at a sleepover. They came over the next day, and we put rose petals and candles for them, and made food for them. And we put Italian music, and they thought they were at a restaurant. And then I gave them I said, hey, I'm going to take you to the store, and we're going to buy some food, some candy for our movie night. And so we went, and we got so much stuff. It was so bad. And we ate so much sugar. It was this cannot be what a parent does to a kid. We didn't eat all of it, but it was like gluten-free Oreos, Red Vines, Reese's.
Wait a minute. They make gluten-free Oreos?
Yes, they're delicious. Stay away from them. They're absolutely terrible for you, but they're great. Yeah.
Okay.
They're double. It's really,
double
really
stuff?
good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, double stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Sugar, unsugar.
Yeah. But
sugar.
Between that, the simple things for me, my relationship with my dog he's my son, and I probably spend at least 2 or 3 times a day where I literally just lay on the ground with him, and sometimes we'll just sit on the couch, because my life is such so high. It's such a high pace, and so fun for me is we do dinner with our family every Saturday, and mom, dad, aunt, and uncle. We spend time with our friends. The kids dance competitively. So
nice.
once a month we travel to different cities and watch them. They're really, really good. So those things are fun.
What kind of dancing?
Contemporary, jazz, hip hop.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, there's nothing like watching, they're not my biological kids and I'm their stepfather, but yeah, I just feel so honored to be able to watch kids develop, the mindset, the resilience and the growth, and then to see something that they believed they couldn't do 2 years ago and now standing out. So those are the kind of moments that I think are fun for me.
Yeah.
So it's really just the ordinary things, that just make me happy.
Extraordinary things.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
What breed of dog is your dog?
He is a border collie shepherd. Yeah. He's in the crate right now because he pooped on the grass where near the cold plunge. And I didn't know because he was acting weird when we were on our run. And I'm like, why is he not pooping? And my wife's like, Ocho pooped on the patio. We don't leave the patio door open anymore. And I was like, this motherfucker. I was like, he must. No wonder if he had his ears down. He was running. He kept looking at me. We were coming up the stairs. He was kind of slowly. And he went to go get water. And he was like looking at me. And I'm like, he knows. He knows I'm about to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, those dogs, they're two of the smartest dogs in the world. So they're smarter than most people, And yeah, he's in the crate. But I'll let him out. I'll let him out in a little bit. He's 4 years old. He's such an amazing blessing into our lives. And I couldn't ask for a better partner. He's such an amazing
best.
Yeah.
I'm a dog girl too. Dogs are the best. I actually have a friend, Michael Fox, and he's obsessed with his backyard grass, like the quality of his grass. And he has trained his dog not to go to the bathroom, number 1 or number 2, on the grass. The dog has to go like over to these beauty bark sections in order to relieve himself. So, yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show you dogs take the time to learn more about us and our language than we could ever understand of them and their language. They're so amazing.
Yeah, they
are.
We love our dogs.
Well, Cesar, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experiences, and for reminding all of us to ask ourselves those hard questions. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and stay connected to you and the new platform that you talked about?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's Cesar, it's CESAR _ready for all. And yeah, you can find me there with all my upcoming updates. I'll be sharing our updated Ready for All Instagram and then the launch of that as well. And we're going to be opening up. We're working on a new brand called Tokyo Gangster that we're going to be launching within the next, we're working on some projects now to try to get that launched. And that'll be like a lifestyle brand, but also a restaurant. And
that sounds very fast and furious of you, Cesar.
Possibly, it may be. It's really going to be around like Japanese lowriders and because they embrace the Latino culture in Japan. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be doing a spin-off of Cloak and Petal on that. So yeah, find me on Instagram, and I'll share all those details coming.
Great.
By the way, I love the tagline, mantra, what have you, ready for all.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, when I heard you say that and saw that, it really resonated with me because it can encompass so many things. Like you mentioned, it's not just geared toward entrepreneurs that you're working with, but it covers so many things in your life. And I saw it as it's about receiving all people, regardless of how they show up. And it's about, ready for all in the giving sense. It's great.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, no, we trademarked it and we're ready to roll it out. So we're excited to get it rolling.
Well, that's amazing. And if you're in the San Diego area, make sure to stop by Cloak and Petal and then slide into my DMs and tell me what it was like, because I plan on getting there soon myself. Awesome. Well, that is all the time we have today. I want to thank Cesar and Kim for showing up and being a part of the conversation. As we always say here at the Sober Curator, getting sober matters, but staying sober matters more. Thanks for tuning in. This is Alysse Bryson. And until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep it sober.